Today, we're going to take the world's most famous and, let's be honest, kind of intimidating equation and transform it into an awe-inspiring universal truth. Whenever we think of pure genius, E equals mc² instantly pops into our heads, right? Well, we're going to dive right into the core concepts and uncover the surprisingly humble underdog story behind its discovery. So let's jump in and ask ourselves a really fundamental question. What does E equals mc² actually mean? I mean, beyond the t-shirts and all the pop culture references, what do these letters and numbers represent in our everyday physical reality? Well, the core concept is actually incredibly elegant. Mass and energy? They're simply two sides of the exact same coin. Literally. This means mass can be converted into energy, and energy can be converted right back into mass. It's a brilliant concept that completely shattered the old, stubborn scientific belief that mass and energy were just two entirely separate entities playing by totally different rules. Breaking down the math. Okay, let's look at the anatomy of this breakthrough, because it really is this simple. The E stands for energy, specifically the total amount of energy locked inside an object. The M is just the physical mass, the physical stuff, and that c², that represents the speed of light squared. Now, let's pause for a second, because the sheer astronomical scale of c, the speed of light in a vacuum, is just staggering. We are talking about 300 million meters per second. Just try to wrap your head around that kind of unfathomable speed. And when you apply the math, squaring this already massive number changes absolutely everything. Because you're multiplying that massive speed of light by itself, the energy output you get from unlocking even a microscopic piece of mass is almost beyond comprehension. It means a tiny, tiny speck of matter holds an absolute ocean of power. And this isn't just some abstract theory sitting on a dusty chalkboard somewhere. It has immense real-world applications. This equation actively explains the staggeringly powerful mechanics behind our sun creating heat and light, how nuclear power plants generate massive amounts of electricity, and, of course, the terrifying, destructive force behind atomic weapons. The 1905 miracle year. So how did Albert Einstein actually figure this out? Surprisingly, this world-changing, universe-defining formula was not the result of some multi-million-dollar lab experiment. No way. It was discovered as a sudden afterthought. Einstein literally just mailed a brief 3-page note to a physics journal, basically tacking this explosive idea onto the very end of his recently published special theory of relativity. The pencil and paper discovery. Remember, he was working as a patent clerk at the time, totally cut off from giant scientific facilities. So he used a Gedanken experiment, a pure pencil and paper thought experiment using just his imagination. Let's walk through this mind-bending paradox step by step. Step 1 is the setup. Imagine an object floating perfectly at rest in the dark vacuum of space. Okay, step 2, the event. That object simultaneously fires 2 equal pulses of light in exact opposite directions. Now, because the pulses cancel each other out, the object itself stays perfectly still. But here's where it gets wild. Step 3 introduces the view from motion. Einstein imagined a moving observer watching this exact event happen. To that moving observer, those light pulses actually carry momentum. This creates step 4, the ultimate paradox. For the math to actually work, and for momentum to be conserved while the object's speed stays exactly the same, the object itself must have lost a tiny bit of its inertia, which is its resistance to acceleration. And wow, this paradox led directly to Einstein's massive aha moment. By emitting that light energy, the object physically lost some of its mass. Think deeply about what that implies for a second. Mass isn't just dead weight. Mass is simply a measure of packed, highly concentrated energy. The evolution of a formula. What's really fascinating is that the most recognizable math formula in human history didn't actually start out looking the way we know it today. Einstein's original 1905 notation was actually written out as a sentence. He used the letter L for energy and V for the speed of light, stating that decreased mass equals L over V². It wasn't until around 1912, 7 years later, that he finally transitioned to the iconic, clean E equals m² notation, permanently cementing it into history. Standing on giants' shoulders. Now, while Einstein made the ultimate conceptual leap, he didn't pull the entire idea out of thin air. Brilliant predecessors had already noticed some really strange connections in the physical world. Henri Poincaré and Hendrik Lorentz had previously observed that electromagnetic energy seemed to carry a weird kind of apparent mass. And Fritz Hasnerhol actually used complex math to show that heat radiation, when trapped inside a moving cavity, added a proportional amount of mass to that specific system. So, the crucial point here is that Einstein took these completely isolated anomalies, these weird quirks of electricity, magnetism, and heat, and realized they weren't just specific, isolated quirks at all. He saw the big picture. He realized they pointed to a much grander, universal truth that united the entire cosmos. Which leaves us with this final, profound realization from Einstein himself. This mass-energy connection is an absolute property of all matter in the universe. So I want to leave you with this thought to ponder today. How does it completely change your view of reality, knowing that every single physical object around you, the screen you're looking at right now, the chair you're sitting on, even your very own body, is just bound up, resting energy, waiting to be understood? Thanks